It is common knowledge that the Vatican City is the smallest country in the world, but what if I told you there is technically a smaller country that is actually recognised by the United Nations? This country is called the Sovereign Military Hospitaller Order of St. John of Jerusalem, of Rhodes and of Malta. It's exactly 0 kilometers squared despite having a population of 3 and claiming Rome as its capital.
And today, we're going to go through its almost 1,000-year-long history to explain how it got itself into such a wacky situation, starting in 1048 when this order of Hospitaller Knights was founded in the Holy Land in modern-day Israel/Palestine, depending on your political beliefs, by the de facto maritime Republic of Amalfi, which had recently freed itself of vassalage from the Byzantine Empire.
They built a church and hospital by permission of the Caliph of Egypt to aid pilgrims travelling to Jerusalem from all walks of life. It would later become independent under Blessed Gerard, a religious bloke under Pope Benedict's rules. In 1113, under some wacky law that I can't pronounce that Pope Bashal II made, they were free to elect their own superiors without interference from religious authorities.
In 1291, a small kingdom called the Mamluk Sultanate decided that they didn't like stinky Europeans taking land that doesn't belong to them for some reason, so they decided to go to war with the Kingdom of Jerusalem, which caused many issues for the Europeans, most important of all being that the Hospitaller Order had to relocate to one of their other established settlements on the island of Cyprus, in Limassol, where they had been present for 81 years.
Here they continued to help pilgrims by assembling a small naval fleet to transport them across the Mediterranean to the aforementioned Holy Land. New members flooded in from all across stinky Europe, enabling them to get more stuff in Cyprus and the Aegean Sea, like Rhodes, Nicosia, which is the modern-day capital of Cyprus, Dodecanese, and Famagusta. They began to seek a more suitable place for a base on Rhodes, although some fellows stayed in Cyprus just to run the gaff for another century.
In 1307, the Knights landed on Rhodes and managed to fully acquire it by 1310, along with a couple of neighbouring islands. Shortly after, they were forced to get violent by an invasion by some dweeb called Andronikos III of the Byzantine Empire. During this invasion, the Order got into many naval battles, including the Battle of Chios, where 24 of their ships and 80 of their knights went up against 36 ships, leaving only 6 of them left. They also helped Crusader navies, where they probably also kicked ass.
Since the early 1300s, European nobility had been arriving and taking refuge in the previously mentioned Rhodes. In order to tell these stinky Europeans apart, they were separated into longs, which is tongues. These tongues include, but aren't limited to, France. During the 1523s, there was 6 months of conflict against Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, after which the knights were forced to surrender and flee Rhodes.
For the preceding 7 years, the Order was without land until Grandmaster Fra Philippe de Vere de Ile Adam was gifted the small, insignificant island of Malta by the Holy Roman Emperor, Archduke of Austria, King of Spain, Lord of the Netherlands, Duke of Burgundy, Charles von Habsburg the Conqueror. And from then on, the Order became a neutral factor in any Christian-on-Christian action.
In 1565, a 4-month-long siege, aptly titled the Great Siege of Malta, began, lasting from May until September, where the Ottomans attempted to conquer Malta but lost terribly to the Knights of the Order. This siege led to the strengthening of Fort St. Angelo and the construction of Fort St. Elmo and Fort St. Michael. A year later, the modern-day capital of Malta, Valletta, was built, named after Grandmaster Fra Jean de Valette, who led the siege.
The Order continued to urbanize the island, building one of the greatest hospitals in the world according to the Order themselves, and a school of anatomy. In 1571, the Order once again took up arms against the Ottoman Empire in the Battle of Lepanto alongside Spain and many Italian states, including Venice, the Papal States, Savoy, and Tuscany, where they managed to defeat the Ottomans with a slightly smaller force. This loss for the Ottomans marked a turning point in European expansion for them, and they decreased their naval presence in the Mediterranean. The Order would continue to partake in Ottoman-Venetian wars up until 1718, when the last war ended.
When the baguette-eating French colonized the burger-eating Americans, the weird knights got involved in New France and even held high-ranking positions within their forces. In 1651, Philippe de Longuevilliers de Poincy persuaded the Order to buy the islands of St. Christopher, St. Martin, St. Barthélemy, and St. Croix, which they ruled for 14 years until they sold them to the French West India Company, showing the Order's great colony-sitting skills.
In 1798, France was preparing their campaign in Egypt and Syria, so on the 12th of June, they took Malta to aid in the campaign, forcing the Order to leave, and they were once again without land. This invasion angered Tsar Paul I of the Russian Empire, since he had grown a close relationship with the Order in recent years, gaining the title of Protector of the Order a year prior. He even considered sending the Imperial Navy out, flying the flag of the Order to protect them. Many knights had fled Malta to priories that the Order had set up throughout Europe. These knights then claimed the Grand Master was a traitor as he surrendered to Napoleon and was deposed after trying to set up a new HQ in Trieste, being replaced by Paul.
After the very tragic assassination of Paul I in 1801, his son and then heir to the Grand Master title, Alexander I the Blessed, refused to accept it, and so it was passed on to Giovanni Battista Tomasi in 1803. After moving between several different places like Messina, Catania, and Ferrara, the Order finally settled in Rome in 1834. After alleviating themselves of a government and military once and for all, the Order of Malta were finally able to focus on their original goal: healing the sick.
Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, the Order updated its statutes and created national associations all over the place, starting in Germany in 1859 and then Britain and Italy almost 20 years later. On the 7th of September 1939, 6 days after the invasion of Poland began, the Order built a 220-bed hospital in Warsaw to help victims of the invasion. Even during the siege of Warsaw, they sent out ambulances to help people in very dangerous and hard-to-reach places. Under Nazi occupation, they continued their services for POWs, and in 1941 gained the right to treat victims of aerial bombardment. This allowed them to help and hide wounded members of the Polish Home Army. They also helped Polish children expelled from ethnic cleansing.
Ever since, the Order of Malta have continued being absolute saints and helping people whenever possible. It may be the smallest, basically non-existent country, but it's active in 120 countries and it operates to 48 national associations. Basically real good guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, histories.